Hello YouTube, this is TNG here. So today I'm going to be showing off my budget Hackintosh build. Um, so yeah, and props to TonyMacX86.com. They actually come up with all the software for Hackintosh, and I get a lot of inspiration for this build specifically from their website. I kind of took bits and pieces of different custom Mac builds and put them together into what I thought would be the optimal build. So anyway, let's begin with the brains of the build, which is the Intel Core i3 4370 3.8 GHz dual-core processor. So yeah, I mean it's only a dual-core processor and it's only an i3, so it's not going to be like the 4690K or the 4790K. It's not going to be super powerful. But then again, we're not going for super powerful here. We're just kind of going for a casual budget Hackintosh build. So if you want to pick up your own sort of Mac, but for much cheaper than Apple would be selling them, and for a lot more powerful than some of Apple's lower end but much more expensive computers, then yeah, that's what we're going for with this build. So we don't really need a super powerful processor. The dual cores in this 3.8 gigahertz processor will serve us fine. And of course, if we look toward the bottom here, we have Intel Integrated HD Graphics 4600. So that's important because we need to make sure that the graphics are compatible with Hackintosh software, which, based on all my research, it sounds like the 4600 graphics are compatible. You'll just need to do some tweaking. But honestly, I'll leave all the software stuff up to you, the viewer. Warning, before you go into this whole Hackintosh thing, it's not just going to work. You know, you have to do a lot of research. It's going to take a lot of effort. You have to kind of be into the whole computers thing and tweaking with computers if you're really going to be able to successfully install Macintosh software on non-Apple hardware, because there's always going to be problems. Honestly, I've never seen someone install Hackintosh software and not run into some kind of an issue. But anyway, with that warning aside, let's head over to the motherboard, which is probably the most important choice you're going to have to make when deciding what your Hackintosh build is going to consist of, because the thing about motherboards is that they all have different audio chipset drivers and networking chipset drivers, and that's why some motherboards work with Hackintosh and some don't, because we need to make sure that the onboard audio and the onboard Ethernet work with Hackintosh software, that there are currently drivers available. So in order to check this, I'll just run you through my checking process. You can go onto Newegg or any other site that shows this information, go to specifications, and then I'll just give an example here. If we look at audio, you can see that it uses the chipset ALC892. So now if we head over to Multi-Beast, which is where you get all of your Hackintosh drivers and such, and then we head over to audio, you can see that Realtek ALC892 is an option. So any motherboard with any of these sorts of audio chipsets will work with Hackintosh in terms of audio. Now that's not to say that the networking and everything else is going to work. There's a whole other process to checking that. Honestly, if you want to go with a motherboard though, instead of doing all the research yourself, I would just head over to Tony Mac X86's custom Mac builds, because they've got a few different motherboards there. I believe they're all Gigabyte. I think Gigabyte's actually the most trusted Hackintosh motherboard manufacturer. So yeah, check those out. Anyway, next up is the memory. So pretty much everything memory and below is not really going to matter that you're building a Hackintosh, so you have a bit more freedom here. I think any memory is going to work with Hackintosh software as long as it works with the motherboard that you've chosen. So for example, my motherboard does use 120-pin DIMM slots and uses DDR3, and it does support 1600 memory. So, and if you're using PCPartPicker.com, it'll actually make sure for you that the memory you've chosen is compatible. So yeah, I mean, it's memory. It's pretty standard. Not much to talk about here. Next up is storage. So we actually have a few different options for storage. If you want to save some more money and not spend this much on storage, you could just go with the HDD, go even more budget, just get a terabyte HDD. Or if you don't want to favor cost, if you want to favor performance, you could get like a smaller SSD, like 120 gigs, and then buy like a terabyte of HDD storage, and that'll run you more money than this. However, if you want to find a nice little balance between cost and performance, I would actually go with the Seagate 1 terabyte hybrid internal hard drive, otherwise known as an SSHD. So for those of you who don't know, an SSHD is basically just your normal standard hard disk drive, HDD, but it has a small 8 gigabyte, or usually around 8 gigabyte, SSD component, which stores all of your most frequently used files and programs and boot files and all that stuff. So basically, booting and launching certain software will run a lot faster than it would on a normal hard drive, but still not as fast as like on an SSD or something. So yeah, like I said, it pretty much is it's a hybrid, just like it sounds. So it's kind of in the middle. It's in the middle of cost and performance. And next up is the case. So of course, for the case, it's all just really user preference. You can pretty much just pick any mini ITX tower case you want. The reason that I went for the Cooler Master Elite 130, and for those of you who saw my other console killers build, you'll notice that I actually said that I like this other case, the Thermaltake V1 or something like that, a lot better, and that's because I do, personally. But for more of a casual budget build, maybe you're building this computer for someone else. Like, I'm actually building this sort of computer for my family, for their kitchen, and they're not going to want to have to see the inside of the computer and all the parts running and stuff. They're just going to want to be able to see a normal sort of black desktop computer. So that's what I want to give them. So I would actually go with the Cooler Master Elite 130 Mini ITX tower case. Actually, I already ordered the parts, so I actually did go with this case, so that they don't really need to worry about seeing the fan and the motherboard and feel kind of daunted and all of that good stuff. So, and this, of course, this case gets great reviews, pops up like first thing on Amazon when you do Mini ITX case. So yeah, it's a pretty popular case. Next up is the PSU. So I'm actually using the same power supply as my console killers builds. I'm going with the CX 430 watt 80 plus bronze certified. It's semi-modular, so that's great, and it's a power supply. So of course it comes with the great Corsair build quality, and it's Corsair, so you know it's going to work great. It's going to have good efficiency, and beyond that, yeah, it's a power supply. The one major benefit I'd point out here also is that it's semi-modular, so you don't need to have all the cables. If you don't need that many cables, then you can just remove some of the ones that you don't need, or rather just not put them in to begin with. And that definitely saves a lot of room in such a small form factor case as the one we have. Pretty much any mini ITX case, really. And yeah, and of course this one's really cheap also. I'm kind of surprised for a semi-modular power supply, it's really cheap. So really for any low budget build, I would totally recommend the CX 430 watt. And finally on our list, this component is not completely necessary. If you're going to be putting your Hackintosh in an area where you know that 100% of the time it's going to work with Ethernet, then you don't really need this. You can just save like $40 and not grab this. However, for anyone using a Hackintosh that wants Wi-Fi at all, I would definitely go with the TP-Link TL, lots of numbers, 802.11 ABGN PCI Express Wi-Fi adapter. Yeah, it's a Wi-Fi adapter. It's PCI Express. But what makes this specific one special is that it's the only one, as far as I know, that works with Hackintosh. The only, like, in-your-computer Wi-Fi adapter. Like, yeah, you can get kind of USB adapters and, like, the big antenna that you put on your desk and it kind of sits there. But this is the only one that's in your computer that I know of that works. And even better, you don't need to install any drivers or anything like that. It just works out of the box, which I don't know how they do it, but literally as soon as you turn on your Hackintosh, if this card is in there, your Hackintosh will start detecting Wi-Fi. It's like the only thing that works out of the box with Hackintosh. It's pretty amazing, actually. And yeah, I have that Wi-Fi adapter in my computer currently. It is working great. It is detecting Wi-Fi, and yeah, it works. I am running a Hackintosh, by the way. Not this build, but a better build. So anyway, this is my video. Like, comment, favorite, subscribe, and let me know if you're trying to install Hackintosh and you're coming across any issues. Maybe I can help you out, because I have actually installed Hackintoshes on a few laptops, on this computer, of course, and I've run into tons of different issues, and I've managed to fix them all, or at least most of them. So if you have any problems, just let me know in the comments, even if it's with a completely different build, if you're just having kind of Hackintosh software issues. Anyway, thanks for watching. This is TNG signing out. See ya.